In the city of Cyprus around 300 BC, there lived a wealthy merchant named Zeno. During a voyage from Phoenicia to Piraeus, his ship sank, taking all his cargo with it. In one sudden, uncontrollable event, Zeno lost his wealth. Imagine being in Zeno's position. How would you respond to seeing your life's work vanish because of something entirely beyond your control? Anger? Sadness? The feeling of betrayal by fate? For most of us, these reactions would be normal. But Zeno, the father of Stoicism, saw things differently. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Zeno understood this idea. The essence of Stoicism lies in acceptance and mastery over our internal responses. After studying Socrates and other philosophers, Zeno created Stoicism, teaching that while we can't control external events, we can control how we react to them. Rather than despair over the loss of his fortune, Zeno chose to remain calm, turning his misfortune into an opportunity for self-mastery. Today, people often mistake Stoics as unemotional or detached. But Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding the nature of emotions and transforming them. As Seneca wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." The philosophy teaches us that our perspective, not the event itself, defines our experience. Stoicism is not just a way of thinking. It's a way of living as relevant now as it was thousands of years ago. It helps us process negative emotions and transform them into wisdom and resilience. In the public spaces of ancient Greece, Stoics gathered to share their teachings with everyone from slaves to emperors. As Epictetus, who was once a slave, put it, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." Stoicism was meant to be universal, transcending social classes. This inclusiveness is evident in how the Stoics coined the term cosmopolitan, citizen of the world. They believed in unity, not division, and championed equality at a time when it was not fashionable. Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus, argued for gender equality in philosophy, stating, "It is not men alone who possess eagerness for virtue, but women also. Both are drawn to noble deeds and reject their opposites." In a society that often denied women the opportunity to study philosophy, Stoics stood for inclusion, believing everyone could benefit from their teachings. So, why do so many adopt Stoicism? It teaches us to expect life's hardships. As Seneca observed, the wise man sees the storm before it comes. By practicing voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, taking cold showers, or eating simple meals, we train ourselves to endure adversity, finding gratitude in simplicity. These exercises help us prepare mentally for future difficulties, reminding us that we can thrive with less. In today's world, where materialism often defines success, Stoicism's message is more important than ever. We are taught to believe happiness comes from external things: money, status, possessions. But, as Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. True happiness lies in our ability to control our reactions, not in acquiring more. By shifting our focus inward, we free ourselves from societal expectations and external pressures. Take the example of someone striving for a promotion at work. If they base their happiness solely on achieving that external reward, they risk disappointment. But if they take pride in the effort they put in, as the Stoics teach, they can find contentment regardless of the outcome. To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden, Seneca reminds us. It's this shift in mindset, valuing the process over the result, that lies at the heart of Stoicism. Stoicism's four cardinal virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, provide a blueprint for living. Wisdom is knowing what is within our control and what is not. As Epictetus wrote, "The chief task in life is to separate things under our control from things beyond our control." Courage is the strength to persist and resist in the face of adversity. Temperance is practicing moderation and finding balance, even in a world of excess. And justice is treating others fairly, understanding that we are all interconnected. As Marcus Aurelius said, "What injures the hive injures the bee." Stoic principles have endured through the ages, influencing leaders like Nelson Mandela, who embraced Stoic teachings during his 27 years of imprisonment. Instead of seeking revenge, Mandela chose to forgive and rebuild, following the Stoic belief that the past is beyond our control, but the future is shaped by how we choose to respond. Even in modern psychology, Stoicism is at the core of therapies like rational emotive behavioral therapy, REBT, and logotherapy. These therapies help people identify and reframe negative thoughts, much like the Stoic exercise of shifting perspective. Viktor Frankl, a pioneer of logotherapy, famously said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." In a world filled with uncertainty, Stoicism offers us a way to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, we can lead a more fulfilling life, unburdened by external forces. And if, like Zeno, our ship sinks and we lose everything, we can take solace in knowing that we lived well, understanding that, as all Stoics believe, everything has an end. As we delve deeper into the Stoic philosophy, we uncover a rich tapestry of ideas that touch on the most fundamental aspects of human existence. One of the core beliefs in Stoicism is that the path to a virtuous life is one that involves constant self-examination. Socrates famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." The Stoics built upon this foundation, arguing that in order to live according to nature, a central tenet of Stoicism, we must consistently reflect on our thoughts, actions, and behaviors. This reflective practice is key to personal growth and moral integrity. At the heart of Stoicism lies the concept of the dichotomy of control, which distinguishes between what is within our control and what is beyond it. Epictetus, perhaps the most famous proponent of this idea, opens his Enchiridion with a powerful statement. "Some things are up to us and some things are not." What lies within our control, according to the Stoics, are our own beliefs, judgments, desires, and actions. Everything else, fame, wealth, the opinions of others, and even our health, falls outside of our control. By internalizing this distinction, we free ourselves from the anxiety and frustration that often accompany trying to control the uncontrollable. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This acknowledgement of our mortality serves as a call to focus on what truly matters: our character, our virtue, and how we treat others. To embrace the dichotomy of control is to find serenity in the face of life's inevitable chaos. When we understand that external events are indifferent, neither inherently good nor bad, we are able to respond to them with equanimity. This doesn't mean indifference to suffering, but rather the realization that how we interpret and react to events is within our power. The Stoics believe that we should train ourselves to accept whatever happens calmly, whether it's fortune or disaster, success or failure. As Seneca said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." One of the most profound concepts in Stoicism is amor fati, which translates to love of fate. This idea encourages us to not only accept the circumstances that befall us but to embrace them fully, even if they seem adverse. Nietzsche, heavily influenced by Stoic thought, described amor fati as the ability to not merely bear what is necessary but love it. This perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth, much like Marcus Aurelius writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." By practicing amor fati, we learn to align ourselves with the natural flow of life, trusting that even in hardship, there is wisdom and purpose. The Stoic view is not that suffering is good in itself, but that our response to suffering can lead to greatness. The trials we face become a crucible in which our character is forged. This mindset teaches us resilience and gratitude, even in the most trying of times. We see this echoed in Viktor Frankl's philosophy, where he asserts that, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. A central practice of Stoicism is the constant reminder of death, encapsulated in the phrase memento mori, "Remember you must die." This might seem morbid to modern sensibilities, but the Stoics saw it as a powerful tool for living fully in the present. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius frequently contemplates his own mortality, urging himself to live each day as though it were his last. "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away," he writes. "Death stands at your elbow. Be good for something while you live, and it is in your power." By keeping death in mind, the Stoics sharpens their focus on what is truly important. Trivial matters fall away when we recognize the fleeting nature of life. This is not a call to fatalism, but rather an invitation to live with urgency, purpose, and virtue. It is a call to action, reminding us that life is short, and we should not waste it in trivial pursuits or in fretting over things beyond our control. As Seneca puts it, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Memento mori is also an antidote to fear. Fear of death can paralyze us, but the Stoics teach that death is a natural part of life's cycle. It is neither good nor bad, but simply inevitable. What matters is how we live, not how long. By coming to terms with our mortality, we can face life's challenges with courage and clarity, free from the anxiety that fear of death often brings. Stoic ethics revolves around the idea of living in harmony with nature, which for the Stoics means living in accordance with reason and virtue. To live in accordance with nature is to live in a way that respects our rational nature as human beings and the interconnectedness of all life. This means striving to cultivate the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, which guide us toward moral excellence. Wisdom involves understanding the nature of the world and our place within it. It's the knowledge of what is good, what is bad, and what is indifferent. Courage is the ability to face difficulties, dangers, and pain without losing composure or moral integrity. Justice is treating others fairly, respecting the inherent dignity of all human beings. And temperance is the ability to control our desires and impulses, maintaining balance and moderation in all things. For the Stoics, virtue is the only true good. Wealth, health, and status may be preferable, but they are not intrinsically good. In contrast, things like poverty, illness, and hardship may be uncomfortable, but they are not evil. What truly matters is how we use these circumstances to practice virtue. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. While Stoicism emphasizes self-reliance and personal virtue, it is not a solitary philosophy. The Stoics believe that we are all part of a larger community, the cosmopolis or the world city. Our actions, therefore, should contribute to the common good. Marcus Aurelius writes, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." This sense of interconnectedness reminds us that our well-being is tied to the well-being of others. Justice, one of the four cardinal virtues, requires us to treat others fairly and act in ways that benefit society. Stoic philosophers often emphasize the importance of fulfilling one's role in society, whether as a parent, a leader, or a friend. While we cannot control others' actions, we can control how we interact with them, choosing to act with kindness, patience, and fairness. The Stoic ideal is not to retreat from the world, but to engage with it meaningfully, contributing to the betterment of those around us. In relationships, the Stoics taught us to love others while maintaining our own inner tranquility. Seneca offered the advice, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable while we remain bound to people, but not to their whims or faults." In other words, we can love deeply without becoming dependent on others for our happiness. This balanced approach to relationships prevents us from suffering unnecessarily when people fail to meet our expectations, while still allowing us to form meaningful, compassionate connections. Today, Stoicism has seen a resurgence, especially in fields like business, sports, and self-development. Many modern leaders and thinkers have found solace in Stoic principles because of their practicality and timeless wisdom. As the philosopher Massimo Pigliucci notes, Stoicism is a philosophy for life. It offers guidance on how to navigate the complexities of modern living with clarity, composure, and resilience. In an age where we are constantly bombarded by information, distractions, and the pressures of social comparison, Stoicism provides a framework for focusing on what truly matters. It helps us prioritize our mental and emotional well-being over the pursuit of external validation. When we apply Stoic principles to our daily lives, we become more grounded, more mindful, and better equipped to handle adversity. For example, in the fast-paced world of business, many leaders turn to Stoic teachings to stay focused and resilient in the face of challenges. The concept of controlling one's internal state while accepting external circumstances as they are can help executives navigate difficult decisions and maintain calm under pressure. Likewise, athletes often use Stoic practices to develop mental toughness, staying focused on their performance rather than being distracted by outcomes they cannot control. One of the key contributions of Stoicism to modern life is its approach to emotional resilience. In a world where stress, anxiety, and depression are increasingly common, Stoic teachings offer a way to maintain inner peace despite external circumstances. At the heart of this emotional resilience is the idea that our emotional responses are largely within our control. While we cannot always control the events that occur, we can control our interpretation of those events. Epictetus famously said, "It is not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things." This is perhaps one of the most powerful insights of Stoicism, and it lays the foundation for modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a widely used psychological intervention. CBT encourages individuals to challenge irrational beliefs and reframe their thoughts in a more constructive way, a practice rooted in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics also taught that negative emotions such as anger, fear, and jealousy are the result of false judgments about the world. For example, we become angry when we believe that someone has wronged us, but if we examine the situation more rationally, we might realize that the wrongdoing was not intentional or that it reflects more on the other person's character than on our own. This rational detachment allows us to approach conflicts with calm and clarity, minimizing emotional turmoil. The practice of mindfulness, which is popular today as a tool for stress management, also has parallels with Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly emphasized the importance of living in the present moment, free from distraction and mental clutter. Do every act of your life as though it were the last, he advises. By focusing on the present and fully engaging with whatever task is at hand, we can minimize worry about the future or regret about the past. Stoic ethics is based on the idea that living a good life means living virtuously. Virtue, according to the Stoics, is the only true good. Everything else, pleasure, wealth, power, is indifferent, meaning that they are neither good nor bad in themselves. What matters is how we use these external factors to cultivate virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. This ethical framework is universal, meaning it can be applied to people from all walks of life, regardless of their specific circumstances. A poor person can be just as virtuous as a rich person, and a sick person can live just as ethically as a healthy one. As Marcus Aurelius pointed out, a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. What matters is not our external status or fortune, but our inner moral compass. The Stoic approach to ethics is also deeply interconnected with the concept of duty. Stoicism teaches that we have a responsibility to fulfill our roles in society to the best of our abilities, whether we are parents, workers, or leaders. This sense of duty is not limited to personal ambition but extends to the welfare of others. For instance, Marcus Aurelius, as Roman emperor, believed that his role was to serve the common good rather than indulge in personal power. He writes in his Meditations, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." This emphasis on community and shared responsibility aligns Stoicism with modern ethical theories like utilitarianism, which also promotes the greatest good for the greatest number. In fact, Stoicism's emphasis on universal humanity laid the groundwork for later ethical systems that emphasize human rights and equality. The Stoics believed that every person, regardless of social status, gender, or nationality, possesses the capacity for virtue and should be treated with dignity. This was a radical idea in ancient Rome, but it resonates strongly with modern ideals of equality and social justice. Stoicism provides a valuable framework for effective leadership, particularly in times of crisis. The Stoic ideal of the philosopher king, a leader who rules not for personal gain but for the well-being of his people, is embodied in Marcus Aurelius, who is often cited as one of history's greatest leaders. His personal writings reveal a man deeply committed to virtue, justice, and self-discipline, even in the face of immense challenges. Modern leaders, whether in business, politics, or other fields, can learn a great deal from Stoic principles. One of the most important Stoic virtues for leadership is temperance, which involves self-control and moderation. A Stoic leader is not swayed by passion, personal gain, or external pressures but remains focused on what is right and just. This type of leadership requires emotional intelligence, the ability to manage one's own emotions while responding to the needs of others with empathy and fairness. Another key Stoic virtue for leaders is courage, particularly the courage to make difficult decisions in uncertain or high-stakes situations. As Seneca observed, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. For leaders, courage is not just about physical bravery but also moral courage, the strength to stand by ethical principles, even when they are unpopular or when doing so may come at a personal cost. Stoicism also teaches that leaders should be humble and aware of their limitations. This humility is not about self-doubt but about recognizing that we are all fallible and that wisdom often comes from listening to others and learning from our mistakes. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, continually reminded himself to stay grounded and to avoid the temptations of arrogance. He writes, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." In today's world, where climate change and environmental degradation are urgent global issues, Stoicism offers a philosophical lens through which we can think about our relationship with nature. The Stoics believed that living in harmony with nature was essential to living a virtuous life. For them, nature referred not only to human nature but to the natural world as a whole. The Stoic commitment to rationality and virtue can be applied to environmental ethics. If we see ourselves as part of a larger ecosystem, rather than as rulers over it, we are more likely to act in ways that promote the sustainability and well-being of the planet. The Stoic virtue of justice requires us to consider the impact of our actions on future generations and other forms of life, urging us to be stewards of the earth rather than exploiters. Moreover, the Stoic practice of focusing on what is within our control can be empowering in the face of global environmental challenges. While we cannot single-handedly stop climate change, we can make choices in our own lives that reduce our environmental footprint, whether by conserving resources, reducing waste, or advocating for policies that protect the environment. The Stoic mindset encourages us to take responsibility for our own actions while remaining calm and composed in the face of larger forces that we cannot control. As we navigate the complexities of the digital age, Stoicism provides a valuable counterbalance to the distractions, pressures, and anxieties that often accompany modern technology. Social media, in particular, presents a challenge to Stoic principles by encouraging constant comparison with others and promoting a culture of instant gratification. The Stoic practice of focusing on what truly matters helps us resist the temptation to seek validation from external sources, such as likes, followers, or comments. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to focus on our internal state, our values, beliefs, and actions. As Epictetus reminds us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. By reducing our dependence on external validation, we become more resilient and less vulnerable to the emotional ups and downs that often accompany online interactions. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us to use technology mindfully. Instead of allowing digital distractions to control our attention, we can practice prohairesis, the Stoic term for intentional choice, by setting boundaries and being deliberate about how we engage with technology. This mindful approach helps us maintain a sense of balance and focus in a world that is constantly vying for our attention. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a timeless and practical framework for navigating the complexities of modern life. Its emphasis on rationality, virtue, and emotional resilience provides a roadmap for living with integrity and purpose, regardless of the challenges we face. Whether applied to personal development, leadership, environmental ethics, or our digital lives, Stoic principles offer guidance for living wisely and well. The enduring appeal of Stoicism lies in its simplicity and practicality. It teaches us that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. By focusing on what truly matters, our character, our relationships, and our contribution to the greater good, we can live with clarity, courage, and compassion. Stoicism is not just a philosophy for times of crisis. It is a philosophy for everyday life, reminding us that the path to happiness and fulfillment lies not in external success, but in the cultivation of inner virtue.